So apparently there's a male loneliness epidemic right now.
Hey, fucking weeball.
This is an actual problem because I myself was kind of like, oh, the men are lonely. Oh, no. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it's just like...
Bitch, what I was trying to say is this situation got me so wet and so dry at the same time. Exactly.
What's up, bitches? Welcome back to another episode of So Wet, So Dry. I am one of your hosts, Autumn, like the season, and I am successfully not talking to any of my exes right now, and I work in entertainment.
Okay, and I'm your other host, Fiji, like the island, like the water. I identify way too much with Harley Quinn, and I work in social media and marketing.
Yes, and I would argue that's a good thing and also a bad thing.
Exactly.
But it's okay. But if you guys are tuning in to So Wet, So Dry for the first time, what we do here is we deep dive topics about sex, relationships, identity, all through the lens of pop culture, internet trends, and our community's experiences. We post polls for every single episode that we do on our Instagram at So Wet, So Dry. The O's are zeros. So definitely follow us on there so you can submit to our polls and be a part of the conversation as well.
Yes, join our community of confused pussies. But they could be confused dicks as well, because this week we're bringing it over to the men. We're talking about the male loneliness epidemic. And guys, you know we shit on men a lot, but honestly, I'm excited for this episode. We got a lot of really good responses from men. Our male listenership has gone up quite a bit, and I'm here to embrace it, okay? I'm a little skeptical about certain things, but I'm here to embrace it.
Here's what I'll just say. Before we get into this shit, Fiji has been saying, no, we need to be nicer to men. We need to be more compassionate. And up until this very point, I have been like, shut the fuck up, bitch. I'm like,
I know.
You're literally going against everything that we know. But after doing research for this week's episode, I can say I finally fucking agree with you, and I'm not happy about it.
Right. I know I wasn't either. I just had watched the podcast, so
right.
Yeah, I'm not happy about it.
I'm here with you.
I'm not happy about it, but look, we're on your side a little bit, men, okay? This one is for you, and it's for the women as well, because we understand if y'all are skeptical. We are too, but we're going to get into it. We're going to break it down. But before we get into all of that, we're going to start the episode as we always do, talking about what we're so wet and so dry about in this very moment. So Autumn, what are you so wet about right now?
I'm not wet about much, to be honest, but just like a brief list of things, which is only two things. I'm wet that showers are healing.
Right.
And that's all I want to say.
I've been telling you this.
I know. We're leaving it at that.
Okay.
Showers are healing. And I've been back on my child star documentary kick on YouTube.
Ooh.
And I've been just like watching a lot about Drew Barrymore and Miley Cyrus. And I don't know, it really helps the time pass, bro. And it's fucking interesting. So I'm what about that situation?
I feel you. Honestly, watching shit like that gives me ideas for episodes. So, you know,
Right.
It's like
I know, I'm like, should we do an episode of Miley Cyrus's shame?
Right. Like the gender in the industry. Okay, well, my like so wet and so dry. Like I'm confused right now because first of all, I'm going to start with what I'm so dry about. So like I'm so dry because the guy that I used to talk to for a while, my man who's not my man, he responded to my story and it was really stupid. It was about something really stupid, but he's been liking all my shit recently. He's been liking the podcast shit, and I just like, he's like there, but like I want to talk to him, but I'm not going to. I've been being good. But I had therapy today, and I told my therapist about the other dude that I've kind of kept on the back burner for a period of time, and he's been after me, and she just pretty much convinced me that like I really need to give him a chance and go on a date with him. So I'm going out to dinner with him tomorrow, and then we're going out with one of my friends and her dudes. And my therapist, she just gave, like, she fucking clocked me. Like, she came at me so hard. But that's why I love her, because she's, like, very honest with me. And she's like, look, like, you always like bad guys. Like, this guy has so many green flags. Like, what is the problem? Like, just go on the date. Like, da-da-da-da-da. Like, leave the other dude alone. And she's, like, right. And part of me is, like, I'm emotionally unavailable. I don't want to date anyone. I don't want to do anything. Like, that's what we tell ourselves, right? Because we're not healed. But her argument is that you need to put yourself out there and give other people a chance. Otherwise, you're going to go back to the same patterns. So I'm wet for trying it. He is a very, very nice guy. I have nothing really bad to say about him, and I really hope he doesn't listen to this podcast.
Does he listen to the podcast?
Okay, but this is the thing. He's the one I was telling you was seeing another girl. Right. I thought he was seeing another girl, and then he hit me up. So I'm like, I don't know where he is with her, and I don't really care. Like, I'm not going into this like this is about to be my boyfriend. And if he asks me, like, I'm gonna be honest with him. I'm gonna try. I feel like he'll
choose you over anyone.
I feel so bad. But I'm gonna.
The way that he just won't give up, and maybe he's the one for you. Like,
he's getting sassy though. He is getting sassy as fuck. It's so
because
funny.
He's tired of your shit, bro.
My shit. Because I be fucking playing with him, but I'm trying to turn over a new leaf because the guys that I like and have been with are not good for me. They think they can just slide back in my DMs on some bullshit after, like, whatever the fuck. And no. And as much as I want to sit around and be like, I miss the sexual tension and the toxic shit, like, I need to be beyond that. And if going on a date with someone who's good for me is the journey to that path, I'm going to do it.
It's just a date. It's for fun. Treat it like a game. Like, it's just for fun. Right. And, like, that's great that, like, I mean, your therapist really, you can tell that you care deeply about what she thinks and you trust her.
No, she was doing too much, though, because she was like, when y'all get married, I'm going to be at the wedding and give a speech, which is so funny because we were just talking about our therapist being at our wedding. So I was like, oh my God, you want to go to my wedding?
You were like, oh my God, you're coming.
Right. But I was like, okay, let's slow down. It's just a date. But yeah, I care a lot what she thinks, and she's always right. Like, she pushed me to talk to the guy before this. Obviously, it didn't work out, but I wasn't going to do that.
Is she taking clients? No, I'm just kidding.
Honestly, but.
No, bitch. But I'm proud of you. I think that's lit. A date is fun within itself. Like, and she's right. Like, you can learn stuff about you. It's not even about the other person all the way, too. It's like you're just putting the motions, like getting more comfortable, whatever.
Getting out of my bubble.
I would say, my so dry is being in the bubble, bitch. I definitely have been practicing some depression behaviors. And by that, I mean sleeping. Because it wasn't just today. I know I told you today I woke up late, but it's not just today. It hasn't been that late as it was today in a minute. But yeah, and I'm just tired of going through the same motions every time a show ends, and I have like a month break, and so I'm just dry about that. I'm dry because I missed the strip club. Honest to fucking God, like when I first got, excuse me, everyone. When I first got into entertainment and working on shows and being a freelancer, I was also a stripper, so it was fucking perfect.
Yeah.
It's the perfect
You always
job
had money,
to have, because everyone's like, oh no, like be a bartender. But no, because the strip club I worked at, you choose your own schedule.
Yep.
Mic drop, you choose your own schedule. You know what I mean? Like,
and you can go later. Perfect. You can go way later. Bartending, you have to be there at like 4 or 5. There, you can get there at like 8 and shit.
Fuck that. So I'm just like dry. And I don't want to talk about it. I don't want you to respond. But we have to say what we're so dry about, and so that's what it is. Bitch.
I'm here
okay,
for you.
But I'm wet about this episode, so let's fucking get into it. You feel me? So as Fiji said, this week we are talking about the quote-unquote male loneliness epidemic. What is it? Should we care about it? Are men okay?
Are they? I'm concerned.
That's what we're going to fucking talk about, bitch, because I don't know, and I kind of do know after doing research, and it's not good. So what is the male loneliness epidemic, you might ask? Well, essentially, young men are more lonely and single than they ever have been before, quote unquote. Okay. But it's not just about relationships. It's also about friendships.
Yep.
It's about friendships, relationships, and overall, y'all, like the stats are speaking, like we're all lonely. Like this isn't just like a male problem, but specifically this is the shit that, you know, people are talking about, because I guess it's just like it's never really been like this before, or it's been more like this than ever before. I don't know. We'll get into it. And it's also like a lot of my research pointed out that this is specifically taking place within individualistic societies, which the United States is. So that's just something to know as well. But basically, the men are fucking lonely, okay? They're sad. They're in their rooms. They're lonely. They don't know what to do. And just to like establish some credibility and everything, like I just want to like read some stats like about men like in the world. So let's just get through those. You feel me? So basically, as of 2022, Pew Research Center found 30% of U.S. adults are neither married, living with a partner, nor engaged in a committed relationship. So that's all U.S. adults, not just males.
We're them. We're not married, living with
We
a partner.
are them. Exactly. Yes. Nearly half of all young adults are single. 34% of women and a whooping 63% of men.
Wait. That's because there's more women in the world? Or in the...
So, Fiji, I don't fucking know.
Okay, but it also could be like queer, like lesbian relationships and shit like that. But okay, yeah.
Right. So it's basically like this is an everyone problem, but it is more significant with men. The Rochester Regional Health website basically said that their survey, or the American Perspective survey, shows 27% of men said they have at least 6 close friends, half the number compared to 3 decades ago. 15% of men reported having no close friends at all, compared to 10% of women. Another study from CNN Health said only 48% of men reported feeling satisfied with friendships, according to a May 2021 survey by the Survey Center on American Life. 1 in 5 men said they had gotten emotional support from a friend in the past week, compared in 4 in 10 women. And then from USA Today, 21% of men said they received emotional support from a friend within the past week, compared to 41% of women. Also, just 25% of men said that they've said an I love you to a friend recently, as opposed to 49% of women. So it's like, okay, that's a lot of stats, but I wanted to just really get some like credible news sources to like show that like this is an actual problem, because I myself was kind of like, oh, the men are lonely. Oh, no. Like, you know what I mean? Right. But it's just like, it does like to see these statistics, and like, we'll get into men's mental health later, and those stats are even, you know what I mean? Yeah. So this just helped me like kind of be like, yes, this is real. Because when researching on TikTok, a lot of people don't think it's real. Yeah. I think, so I was like, is it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like it definitely, because honestly, like the men in my family, I feel like I've always had a lot of close male friendships. I've been in a lot of long-term relationships with men, and I'm close with the men in my family, or I have a brother and no sisters. And then my dad and uncles and da-da-da. Like, I've noticed just social interactions, like women emotionally support each other. Men don't really. And then even recently, one of my best guy friends, like every time I'm on the phone with like my friends or people that I love, I always say I love you when I hang up. And we were out and like drunk or something, and he was like, oh, Fiji, like our friendship means so much to me, like getting like super soft or like whatever. And he was like, you know, like I've only said I love you to like a couple of my friends, and that means so much to me. And I was like, oh my God, like to me, that's a regular thing. Like I say that when I hang up with all my friends. But I think for guys, it's like, it's much, much different. So that makes me sad, but I don't know.
Yeah, but it's also, yeah, it is sad, because why they shouldn't be as like, that shouldn't be as sentimental, I guess, as it is. But maybe it's like on the flip side, women say it too much. So we're just handing out I love yous like it's free candy, bro. Yes. But This last statistic from the medium.com, just to kind of bring in women a little bit, is it did say 45% of women are expected to be single and childless by 2030 per recent projection. And that's like, that could be a future episode, you know, that's scary, but it's like kind of the result of what's going on.
Is it scary?
Childless? Bitch, I want kids.
I don't know. I feel like I'd be living my best life. I have a pit bull. That's my baby. Like,
okay, bitch. Okay. You know, I can't argue with that.
Right.
That's fine. The first poll that we asked y'all for this episode was, do you think the male loneliness epidemic is real? Because I had doubts. People on TikTok I saw had doubts. So I was like, what do y'all think? But y'all definitely, most of y'all are like, yeah, the fuck, it's real. 65% said yes, it's real, but 35% said no, which is also a decent, you know, number.
yeah, it's like almost 60-40 or 70-30, depending on how you want to
Depending on how you want to look at it.
65-35, but you know.
Right. So I'm just like, interesting. And then the next poll we asked y'all after that was, do you think the male loneliness epidemic is on men to fix themselves? Dun, dun, dun. And I was like, yeah, bitch. But unfortunately, I don't know. Anyways, let's see what y'all thought. Y'all said yes, it's on them to fix themselves. 64% of you said yes. And then 36% said no. Fiji, any thoughts? Passing it off to you because I'm scared.
Yeah, so honestly, before, like, when I first heard of it was probably, like, about a year ago, and I was like, no, fuck this shit's not real. Then I listened to a podcast about it. I was like, okay, it's definitely real, and it's making sense to me. I don't think it's on men to fix themselves, and when I was looking at the responses in the polls, I would say 90% of men said yes, it's on them to fix themselves, and I think that's really fucking sad. Honestly, because I just think that it is the patriarchy, like everything. And I think it's just their psychology, what's ingrained in them to fix themselves. Let's be real, they don't have the tools to fix it themselves. They are not equipped. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. And that's why they're sad and lonely. I think it's time for us to educate them. So
I think that it is on them to fix themselves, but I don't think it's solely on them. Because they don't have the tools. Yes, the fuck they do. They have a computer.
Okay, but this is... Okay, so I'm going to get deep into some...
But wait. Let me just finish.
Okay.
Yes, the fuck they do. They have a computer.
Okay, valid.
They have books.
Valid.
They can read.
Right.
You know, hopefully.
When was the
some
last
of
time
them.
that, like... You read a book, though, or most people, our generation, actually picked up a book?
Well, fucking do it. I know what's going on. Like, I don't know, but I feel like, okay, you're not, I'm speaking.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I'm scared. Yes, I think it's on them to fix themselves, but I also think they cannot fix society. And I agree with psychologically growing up as a boy is fucked. Yeah. Right. Like, it's fucked everywhere. Is it fucked growing up as a girl? Yes. But we don't talk about it as much, boys, because frankly, I'm scared of boys.
Yeah.
Like that age range, like little white boys, 9 to 13, they are terrifying to me. And it's because of how they are raised and conditioned. So yes, I agree with that. But I don't think it's as like it's time for women to educate them. I'm not there yet. I do think that a lot of women are educating them and have tried. Yeah. And then they like punch us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyways.
I get it. But okay. So
thank you for listening.
No, I feel like emotionally, I feel you. Intellectually, I don't, and I hate myself for it, but there's this lovely thing called the pedagogy of the oppressed that I studied when I was in college, okay? When I took a bunch of like gender, race classes, whatever. The pedagogy of the oppressed is pretty much that the oppressor, men, do not know anything beyond their privilege because they've never experienced anything beyond being the top of society. So whenever anyone like women or black people or whatever come up a little bit, they're going to feel knocked down. because they've never experienced anything more. So the pedagogy of the oppressed pretty much says that, unfortunately, it is the job of the oppressed to teach the oppressor what they don't know, because they've never experienced, like, to them, this is like, oh my God, I'm losing my fucking privilege. I'm lonely. Like, what am I doing? But they don't know any fucking better. So I'm not saying that it's like we need to like treat them like little fucking children and be like, okay, like this is how you get a therapist, like whatever. But I'm saying it's more just about educating them that it's not as fucking bad as they think it is, and that they maybe just need to have a little bit more fucking agency, because most things have been handed to them in their lives, especially white men. So that's what I mean. And then the other part of it, there's a video that we're going to mention later on by Khadijah, and she talked about this book.
Can I just say, I love them so much.
So much.
Whenever I never watch.
She, but them. Yep.
Right. I never watch like full videos that are like 45 minutes long. Maybe I'll literally watch like 37, but I never watch. And I'm like, I'm obsessed with them.
They have some of the best video essays like on YouTube.
And they're hilarious. And they say what I'm thinking. Yep. Like they're very
and controversial.
I would love
too. Like they
I'm kind of down too. Like
they're pan hit them up.
You'll be tagged below. Anyways,
so Khadijah was mentioning this book by Terrence someone. I can link it in the description, but he was talking about psychological patriarchy. And a lot of times when we talk about patriarchy, we're talking about the systems and the structures and the society in place. But psychological patriarchy affects women and men as well. So that's like when you're talking about when you're brought up as a boy, it's like, oh, boys don't cry, boys aren't emotional, da 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 da. So they're victims of this structure. Because let's be real, like the 24-year-old dude that you're friends with or the 30-year-old dude that you're dating, like they didn't build this society. You know, they were brought up in it, and it was already this fucking way. Yeah. So we can't always look at them and be like, men, da 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 da. So that's that
but it
part.
Feels good, and we acknowledge that. But I 100% agree. You're right.
Right. But then last thing I will just say on that is that because they are ignorant to a lot of this shit, they're just plain ignorant. Like blankets, they are ignorant. They don't fucking know any better. And it's not really their fault. Yes, they should probably read more. But this other video that we watched that we're going to mention more was talking about this, why this is so dangerous, because when men seek out like support or male role models or mental health, all that's really there for them that's talking about men's issues is Andrew Tate, Fresh and Fit, the fucking whatever podcast. Like, and that rhetoric is all about like pull yourself up by your bootstraps, like make more money, like don't feel emotions, like, and that's not healthy. But this video was pretty much just saying that the right is the only people really talking to men. And I'm not saying that we should dumb down our activism or anything.
Especially young men.
Especially young men.
Emphasis on like that, exactly, like the 15 to 25, 30, like no one is talking to them unless it's fuck you.
Right. And think about it. When you're like a 10-year-old boy on the internet and you're sad about whatever the fuck you're sad about, are you going to go seek help from a YouTuber that's like, you know, men are trash? Or are you going to go to the one that's like, you can be a rich man?
And they're so susceptible to that because of how fucking sad they are. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like they're the perfect fucking target, bro, audience.
Right.
Not like target, like, you know what I mean? But basically it is like that because, and Andrew Tate knows exactly what he has done and is doing.
Yeah.
Like everything is so much more calculated. And I agree. It's absolutely terrifying. And that's why me and my family talk about it all the time. Like, because when my nephew was growing up, he was like 5 years old. And so he was around these like little boys that were at that age. And me and my mom would be like, stay away from them because they're fucking scary.
But that's the thing.
It's not their fault.
Boys do. I'm for men being around men and men being men. Like, I want men to be men. Like, I want men to be masculine, all of that shit. But like, the dream that they were sold about, you have to have money and this is how you get women and you have to be in control, all of that is bullshit. All of that is bullshit. And I don't think that anyone's really like talking about that. We're talking about how it's bullshit for women.
But it's like, it's bullshit to us. But like some women are like, for real. Like if a man doesn't have money, like he's not worth anything to me.
Yeah.
And like, so I get why they think that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That makes perfect sense to me. And it's like, but it's like not true to everyone.
Or the egg thing, because it's like, I feel like me and you are more on that vibe where it's like men have done us dirty. So we're like, oh, we want a man that has like money and like shit going on and da-da-da, because like we've held it down for men that whatever. So then it's like, it like repeats itself. You know what I'm saying? Because you could be going for a man for like genuine reasons or whatever, and then shit backfires, and then it's just like a cycle. So. Right.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, but we will get into more of that. I mean, it's really like all of what Fiji just said. It's like at the core of this loneliness epidemic. So we will keep talking about it. But I want to get into another poll that we asked you guys, which is essentially, why do you think men are so lonely right now? Why is this happening? Why has it been happening? Because you're right. Like there started being viral videos about this, I think in 2022 I saw. But it's like those stats have just gotten even worse now being in 2024. So we asked you guys, why do you think men are so lonely right now? And we gave you 4 options to choose from. The highest answer was men are so lonely because of gender wars / misogyny. And 41% of you voted for that. 32% voted for the stigma around men's mental health. Mm-hmm. And then 24% voted for social media dating apps. And then only 3% voted for women have too high standards right now. And then there was one listener that replied and said it's all of them, which I agree. Yeah. I think it is all of them. I think all of them are intertwined. But I think it's interesting that gender wars won. I didn't think it would, because I think, I don't know, that people don't like think that's as much of a factor as it really is, like in our everyday lives. Like we joke about it online. We made like an episode about it that got a lot of views, low key, the gender wars one.
That's a good
but
one
it's
to
like,
listen with this one. I think that one would definitely.
I think so. This is almost a part 2, if you will.
Literally.
But I think the gender wars is a reason for almost everything, you know, like it's really at the core of like this country and other places too, but just speaking to the US. But yeah, I think it's all of them.
Yeah, I think it's the stigma that men, I could think it's all of them too, but I think it's the stigma that men can't be vulnerable. It depends on how you look at it though, because I think if we're talking about loneliness because of like intimate relationships, like romantic relationships, I would say gender wars and misogyny, which is also kind of women have too high of standards, like whatever. But I don't know. I think the stigma that they can't be vulnerable kind of
is a big one.
Yeah.
Would be like the biggest one for you. Because that's like
with friends, with family, with partners.
Right. That encompasses the whole epidemic, which is not just about intimate relationships. And I think a lot of people think it is. I kind of thought it was, but Khadijah actually was the one that like broke it down for me. Like it's everything, you know? And like, so, and I think all genders are feeling that sort of like friendless era type of thing right now.
Post-pandemic, yeah.
You know, like there's so many reasons like why. But I think just for the men, it's extra bad because of all this other things. I mean, there isn't a bigger stigma around women's mental health as there is around men.
Because we talk to each other. Like I really think it's that like whole like, guys I've talked to and stuff like that, they'll make fun of each other for like liking a girl or like having feelings or being like, and I've done it too. Like I've literally made fun of some of my guy friends for being fucking dramatic with shit. Like we all do it. But with women, you know, we'll send each other fucking 5-minute long voice memos, just like pure mental
I
breakdown.
tell you everything I'm feeling
all the time. Like, it's just the
Just
constant.
today, I was like, I can't believe we're friends. Like, the universe brought us together. Like, I'm so grateful. And it's like out of nowhere, bitch. Like, you know, like we just
and
do
we
that.
screenshot shit that happens. Like, we're just constantly like a stream of consciousness. Women just like, because we get it.
But also, it's because we make a safe space for each other. Like, guys don't do that. You know what I mean? Not as much, and not in the general.
Interesting. That's a good question that I want to ask the viewers, the listeners, whatever. If you want to comment, why do you like? What if you are a guy that doesn't really share things about your life or like is emotional to like your friends or anything? Like, why? Why do you think it is? Like, do you think it's just the way you were brought up? Like your dad, like your male role models? Are you like insecure and afraid people are gonna like laugh at you? Like, I really want to know why.
All of the above.
Right, because I have suspicions, but yeah.
Yeah, I have a suspicion. But yeah, so let's get into this very viral video by Shoe on Head. And it's essentially all about the male loneliness epidemic. This video went very viral, not only in views, but people were, you know, kind of trashing her on Twitter. It was on TikTok. I mean, it was like everywhere. And the comment section was like a 50% of like hate, you know, from incels being like, you're ugly, stupid, fat,
which
whatever.
Doesn't make sense to me because like this
her
is
video.
for
I know.
like incels,
but this
if you're listening, they're not going to make it past 10 seconds before they comment hate shit about how we're fat, ugly, and unfuckable under this video if we mention them in the description. But we're trying to hear you out. Like, I don't understand. Like, I literally don't understand. But anyway, you were saying.
Yeah, I know. and then it also was some heartwarming comments about like, thank you for opening my eyes to this. So it was a good video, and I really liked it. Shoe on Head, and they're hilarious.
Yeah, they are
like
funny.
It was funny to watch. Like they have is it dry humor? I don't know. It's just very like direct and funny. So basically, she broke it down. She went into everything about the epidemic, like statistics. We got a lot of our sources from this video. But she did mention how, like I said in the beginning, this is primarily in a scope of like individualistic societies, which Japan also is.
Yeah.
And Shoe on Head was saying about how this problem is existing in Japan as well. And it's actually gotten so bad that there's like a whole movement, and there's like a word for like the lonely man or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't want to butcher the pronunciation, but it's
Hikikomori, I think.
Hikikomori.
Is that I forget, is it Japan? But is that when like there's men who like drive themselves crazy trying to be so successful in like capitalist society that they like literally like there's a suicide problem? Is that what that is?
So it probably has to do with that. This is specifically like young men in Japan that like essentially completely withdraw from society though. So they're not really working either. And it's like they seclude themselves in their rooms for like months and years at a time. And it's young men specifically, like out of
incels,
high school.
Kind of.
Right. And so in 2010, there was 700,000 Hikikomori in Japan. And by 2024, there's 1.55 million people that identify with that. And it's like people aren't having babies. There's been like a very sharp decline since 2011. So it's definitely not just a problem here. So that's why I did want to include that. But it's sad, and it definitely has everything to do with mental health. I mean, I struggle with isolation. I play video games. Like, I do that too. Like, yeah. I get it. But I also have friends and people in my life to talk to and snap me out of it. So it's not a whole week of doing it. It's like a day or two. So it's different. But I thought that was interesting and also very sad.
Yeah.
But another thing she talked about was like technology, and just in terms of like people are going outside less in general because we have everything we need online. You can Amazon packages, you can get a dating app,
I love Amazon.
Instagram. You can literally do everything from your phone. And it's like OnlyFans, porn we'll get into, because and essentially our episode, the commodification of dating, is very applicable to this too. It's because the sort of commodification of dating is making men feel so lonely.
Yep.
And I did go to TikTok to kind of talk a little bit more about this idea. And there was this one TikTok I found that, like, why are men so lonely, blah, blah, blah. And this man is essentially saying that his biggest thing is, like, within technology is pornography is the reason men are so lonely. So let's play that TikTok.
Yeah, I saw a post that said men are going to be the loneliest group on the planet going forward. Like, it's getting worse for men. That most men in their 30s, I can't remember the percentage, haven't had sex in 12 months. And some women telling themselves that, oh, men are going to be lonely because women's standards have gone up. And that's not really true. Because I'm dealing in the trenches every day, all day, and them standards still terrible. Them standards still threesomes, foursomes, cheating. Them standards ain't going nowhere. The real reason why men gonna be the loneliest is because of pornography. You're gonna have to sit down and do your own studies and do your own looking into it, but that's the devil's work. And what it is doing is giving men a false sense of security. It's derailing the minds of men. It's distracting the minds of men. It's stealing the minds of men. It's interrupting the natural progression and the connection between a man and a woman, because everything has become superficial. And this man is so in his mind, and he's gotten so addicted that he can't even have a real relationship. That's the real reason.
Okay, so first of all, like, I think he's half right. But the whole thing about, like, women having sex more than men and that's why they're lonely, like, I wish we had, like, an actual stat on that. But I think it's real. I honestly do think it's real, because I think the majority of women have sex with a percentage of men, and it's way easier. It's way easier for us to have sex with men whenever we want to, versus for men, it's harder, which is why they're so fucking ravenous and, like, weird all the time, which does not help them get pussy. It just makes them, like, creepy. But I do think that that's part of it. But I also think that men that are having sex, that doesn't mean they're not lonely, because what is the bitch going to do? She's going to fuck you, and you're going to be so ravenous because you haven't had pussy in a minute. You're probably not going to give a fuck about her pleasure, or you're going to be doing too much. She might ghost you. She won't talk to you the next day because it was just like a one-night stand for her. And then you're still lonely. So I don't think sex is the epitome of it. But
No.
the porn thing, I have mixed feelings about. Honestly, I have mixed feelings about this, because I feel like it's a big rhetoric on the right with, like, conservative people to be like, porn is, like, killing our minds and, like, da-da-da. Like, yeah, exactly. And, like, pedophilia and, like, whatever. While there is a good amount of, like, fucked up shit on the internet that needs to be removed, I don't think porn is the complete problem, because I think men and women need to masturbate for, like, mental health. But I think porn as an industry prevents a lot of men from seeing women as whole human beings, which is why I think OnlyFans is better. But I don't know. What do you think?
Right. And I guess, like, I do think that a big reason men might be lonely, regardless of its pornography on OnlyFans or on Pornhub or whatever, is because we're chronically on our phones. We're trying to get all of our needs met from our phone quickly and now. I think that that's a definite, like, thing. I don't think it's the biggest reason, though. But I think it is a contender, because, I mean, my ex-boyfriend used to say this all the time, that, like, porn was the devil. It was the reason he's not motivated.
But he would make it too, right?
I'm not saying I agree with him, bro. Yeah. I'm not saying I agree with him. Yes, the fuck he would make it, okay?
And watch it, yeah.
We made some great films. Anyways, he would say, like, it's the reason I'm not motivated. Every time I come, like, I just want to blah, like, whatever, which is interesting because I feel differently, and I think other people feel differently as well. I mean, I do like a good nap after for sure.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like it breaks me out of something, and I, like, remember that, like, life is worth living.
Yes.
So I think it depends. I don't think it's for everyone. I don't know. I agree with you. I have mixed feelings about it.
Yeah, because I was going to say, like, porn is iffy for me. Like, I only really watch porn if, like, my ADHD is so bad that I can't come up with a fantasy in my head. Because the fantasies in my head are so much fucking better than me watching porn. And usually when I'm watching porn, like, I can't get beyond the fact that, like, it looks so fake to me and it looks so not pleasurable because, like, so much of sex to me is about, like, your actual connection with that person. But I feel like because men are in this weird secluded area where they don't talk about emotions, where are they learning about relationships with women, like, I feel like a lot of them are gathering their views of what sex should be and what relationships should be and from porn.
Right.
Which is so fucking backwards because that's literal acting. And we know because we were strippers. Like, when we were giving lap dances and letting them kiss on our neck or kissing their, like, we're fucking acting. This is not real. We are not turned on. And when I watch porn, 90% of the time, like, I can't get fucking past that. And maybe it's just my background. But I don't know if men can. Like,
I know. And the whole thing about, like, men being able to, like, separate, like, sex and, like, humans, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they don't humanize porn stars. Like, and that's, like, I think gender wars being a clear example of why they're so lonely because that's a big part of it too.
Yeah.
So, but basically the last thing we'll talk about kind of with Shu on Head's video, bringing it back to that video, she kind of just talked about how America is in a friendless era. And that's been a lot of trending YouTube videos as well, just in general across all genders. But it's hitting men particularly hard because they always have fewer friendships anyways. So
Right.
with everyone not being friends, so that's a big thing. But overall, she basically did argue that this is an entire, society problem and that men are not to blame. And she said we need to address it rather than just being like, fuck men. Oh, they're lonely. That's so pathetic. Like, we need to address it as a whole. And that's what, she argued. And ultimately, I do kind of agree with her.
Yeah, because I actually have a good amount of guy friends. Most of them are gay. Some of them are straight. But I love having men in my life. And there's this other book that I'll mention. I actually just ordered it on Amazon after watching Khadijah's video. But it's called, hold on, let me scroll to the bottom. It's called...
Fucking Khadijah.
It is called, hold on, The Will to Change.
Yeah,
Men,
they preach that book
Masculinity,
hard.
and Love by Bell Hooks. And let me just read the description real quick.
Let me
guys.
send it to me when you're done, please.
Yeah, I definitely
Can
will.
we?
Because
We'll do a book
I heard
club?
it's really, really good.
Let's do an episode about it, bitch.
And guys, men order it as well. But it says everyone needs to love and be loved, even men. But to know love, men must be able to look at the ways that patriarchal culture keeps them from knowing themselves, being in touch with their feelings, from loving. And it's pretty much like getting to the heart of the matter and shows men how to express their emotions, like da-da-da. And she's pretty much saying that, like, this is a woman's problem as well, and that we need to celebrate men, but not in the Andrew Tate way of, like, dominance, control, da-da-da. But, like, I will say, like, I love having men in my life. Like, as much as I hate men, as much as men have caused me a lot of trauma, I do really love men and I really love having male friends. But what prevents that 90% of the time is every time I try to be friends with a guy, they try to fuck me or they make it weird. And that's just like, that's on you guys. Like, you have to do something, because I feel like you'll have opportunities to be friends with women, which are the only people that you really feel comfortable venting to, which can also be exhausting.
Hello.
Which can also be exhausting because men also aren't very good at listening In my experience, like the guys that I'm friends with are like, that's why they're my close guy friends. But in my experience, like me and your friendship is a two-way street. It's like, if you have a problem, I'm going to call you, I'm going to listen, Like men, they don't always like, sometimes it's good because they can be straight up with you, like, oh, you're tripping, like whatever. But a lot of men will just be like, I don't want to hear it. But then they'll vent to you because they don't feel comfortable venting to their guy friends. So it just feels like this one-way relationship where it's not really a friendship, or they're just trying to fuck you. So that's like, it can be frustrating, and I feel like that's really on men to unlearn, because I feel like there's a lot of women out here who would love to have guy friends and feel protected and loved and have masculinity around them. But y'all need to put your dick in your fucking pants and learn how to have a conversation. Like,
yeah. I have a question for you, because I definitely relate to a lot of what you said, but I don't relate to wanting male friends.
Yeah.
And this is not me trying to be funny. Like, just my whole life, I've never had that. I've never had a close male friend. I don't know what that's like. Yes, have I been friends with men in like the musical theater space? Like, of course. But it's never been close. So my question to you, and don't be afraid I'm going to get jealous. I promise I won't.
Yeah.
But would you be able to have a friendship as deep as we do with like a man that doesn't exist? Like, it's no one particular, but say there was a man that whatever.
Yeah.
Do you think you'd be able to like have a friendship as deep as we do with a man?
I'm so dead. No, I don't, because
Thank
I think
God.
that
Thank
there's a difference. I think women can
Thank
relate
God.
a lot better on certain things. But I will say, one of my best friendships, shout out to my friend Jake. Shout out to my friend
You're
Jake.
outing him. Is he okay with that?
Yeah, he's cool.
We'll tag you below.
But he, growing up, like,
He's
in middle
a real
school
one,
and high
bro.
school, like, he literally was, and still is, like, we don't talk that often, but, like, I know if I ever needed anything, like, I could go to him, like, we could talk, like, da-da-da, and, like, he came out as, like, bi later on, and, like, whatever. So I feel like that made things easier. Like, gay men just get it more. Like, queer men, it's just, there's a whatever. But I
Not
do,
all of
like,
them, but in general.
yeah, and I think it's because, like, I was really close with my dad, like, growing up, and, like, I also have a brother, and I don't know, like, I've always had a good amount of guy friends, but I will say it's a completely different friendship, and I go to them for completely different things than with women, and I always feel like my friendships with women, and, like, obviously you, are gonna be deeper. But you men need that.
Yeah, I know. But that's interesting, because like I'm envious of that. Like, I wish that, and I do like I think men are fine, like, walking around, like, I'm like, they're cool. Like, I really don't hate them at all. But to go as far as to say I love men, I don't think I do. Like, I love people. I love having people around me, meeting new people, but like, I'm not someone that's like, yeah, like, male friendships, like, yeah, like, I have no desire to explore that. And I think it could happen. I think it could definitely happen. But I'm not like, I just don't feel that way. And maybe I'm still in my journey. Maybe I need to read the book more. Maybe I should get that shit prime delivered for tomorrow morning. But I also just think, like, I think other women feel that with me. Yeah. I'm definitely like, I mean, I'm bisexual, so I'm on the scale. But it's a queer thing too, because I've only had one boyfriend, and I considered him honestly one of my best friends at the time. Yeah. Like, I fucking like, you know, but it's only happened once. And like, me and my dad, like, not the best relationship. I don't have any uncles. Like, who do I fucking have to fucking, I don't. Like, I really don't. And then it's like the one relationship I did have with a man, it's like, I like thought it was a safe space. Like, turns out it definitely fucking wasn't. Like, you know? Yeah. So I think it might be harder for me to get there, you know? And it's like, I do have a brother, but it's like, we were separated for 5-6 years of his upbringing. Like, we came back as a family later, but it's like, he wasn't there my whole life. So, and when he was there at the beginning, like they left when he was like 4.
Yeah.
And then he comes back as a 15-year-old. I mean, it's just different.
And I do think a good part of it, like, because I think part of it is like me having a brother, but like I do think a good part of it is being straight and like being in relationships with men, because there's just like when you're in long-term relationships
You've had
with men,
to kind
you
of
get
figure
close
out
with them, but also you become curious about how men work.
See,
So it's
I
like,
don't care.
I don't know. I always.
Maybe that's why, like, maybe I really will end up with, like, a wife or a partner that's not a cis male because of that. Because I genuinely don't fucking care.
Yeah, see, I don't know.
Or maybe I just listen to Drew Afualo on repeat.
I lean more towards men on the bisexual. Like, because as much as I hate them and as much as they've done me dirty, I laugh at their.
Yeah, you're a warrior, bro.
Laugh at their stupidity, and I usually do. But I do love men. Like, I don't know.
I believe you. Do you believe me that I kind of don't?
I do. I can see it. I know. In ways that we interact with men, I think that, and I'm not saying it's a good or bad
I treat it like a game, bro. Maybe I'm the reason, like, they're so, but I do think it is a queer thing. Yes. I was also like, yes, I had a dad growing up, but my primary house was always with my mom and her partner.
Right.
Well, that was another woman.
Right.
Like, it was always women. And,
yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting, but I do, like, I want to care. Like, I guess kind of. Like, I don't know. I'm figuring it out. Maybe I should really read that book.
Yeah.
Because celebrating men as a sentence makes me want to fucking crawl into a hole and not come back out.
What pisses me off, though, is the things that I want to celebrate.
Celebrate them?
Sorry. The things that I want to celebrate about men are usually the things that they hate about themselves. Like, I love... No,
what do they hate about
but
themselves?
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, men are like, oh, I need to be like da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, no, like, I like when you're like a little cute and pathetic and like a human. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Like
a human.
Like, I want them to be tough when they're like fucking me and like whatever the fuck. But not
even all the time with you. Like, sometimes you like a good cheek caress.
Yes, exactly. But I don't know. I feel like the men just have it wrong. Like, when we talk about the female gaze and shit like that, too. Like, the things that women like about men. Like, we like a bi-curious looking guy a lot of the times. Like, I'm not going to look twice at Andrew Tate. I'm fucking sorry. That man is not my type. Like, usually the muscly gym dudes that be all whatever the fuck. I don't think that's attractive. Right. So, like, when we talk about celebrating men, we're talking about celebrating, like, not that shit.
The few men I could think of that deserve it.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? And I'm a bad example because I don't really know any. I was just going to say something. Fuck. Oh, but I was just going to say real quick, like, it's interesting, too, because this is a whole episode about gender, men and women. Like, what even is a man and woman in 2024?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? They're just fucking words.
Yeah.
And it's like some people, like, think about gender and they just, like, don't really care. They're like, oh, I'll have these pronouns, like, whatever. Like, you think of me, I look like a woman, I don't care. But it's like, I'm like, a woman is, like, my whole thing. Like, I feel very strongly like I was supposed to be a woman. I love everything it comes with, even like, you know, the journey of white feminism, like everything. Like, I'm here to appreciate the journey.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I can't look at men like that same way as like, because women aren't perfect and white women are the farthest from perfect. Yeah. And so it's like to say I even love that about me is like weird, but
no, but that's one thing I admire about you, because I feel like I've never been as comfortable in like celebrating.
It's because
my
I had lesbian
femininity.
moms.
Exactly. I feel like I've always looked at men in a way where it's like I want to be like them, not in the sense of like I want to be like have my dick out.
You
and, like,
you want to be like them, like powerful?
Like yes, like
I
would look at women as like no, like we need to do like this isn't like I'm not like consciously as in you know what I'm saying. But like in the ways that I mimic how I work and how I whatever, like how to get
and that
power,
makes sense.
I'm modeling it after men, which is not healthy, I don't think, because I think that's girl boss era is to, you know, model men and become the patriarch. That we're not doing that.
But that was our upbringing. That's where we were at the time.
Right.
And I'm thinking like, oh, thank God I don't have to do all that. Like,
I'm
the
like,
complete
no, let me do
opposite.
all of it. I could be president. Like, I don't want to be fucking president.
I was always
but-
just like just sit back and relax. But yeah, so it's all just interesting. I know that was like a tangent.
Yeah.
So let's move on to actually Khadijah's video.
My fave.
It's entitled "The Menses Are Lonely, but Should We Care?" And I was like, what? I was like, literally, because I don't know if I should. So please educate me, my queen. So Khadijah mentions the kind of like men are trash era. And like think about when those memes were first being started and like coined and everything. Now it's like no one really says it anymore. But even in college, we have that one video of us in the mirror like men are trash.
We do. Wait, you need to send that to me. I don't remember that video.
You know it's in the house we always used to go to with our old friends in the bathroom. And we were being so ridiculous because you were mad at what's-his-face for something.
And he
Anyways,
was probably
I'll send you the
in
video.
the kitchen when we were recording that video.
Exactly. But exactly. We were in the bathroom. But we said it all the time. Men are trash. And basically, like, and like kind of the era of women's standards increasing. Because that is happening.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people didn't vote for that answer in the polls, which I don't know how much it is directly related with the male loneliness epidemic, but it is definitely happening.
Yeah.
And Khadijah argues it's happening because we finally feel comfortable enough
Right.
to not only voice it to ourselves that we deserve higher standards, but also to other people. And then it was like, it's basically like the men are trash women, like that are saying men are trash versus like the incels is essentially like the movement.
Yep.
And it's like men are trash is funny, but Khadijah's like, it's deeper than men are trash. Like that's not really what we mean. We're talking about like bad things we've experienced.
Because it
the
developed
patriarchy.
from, I think, the Me Too movement is when,
Right
after when men are trash became like a hashtag and everything.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So it's like, it's not, yeah, it comes from actual meaningful things that make it valid.
Right.
Okay. And basically, just kind of how it's difficult to connect with and understand men in general. Like a lot of women feel that way. And a lot of women also feel that it's difficult to tolerate men at all.
Yeah.
Which sounds funny, but that's the reality that we're like currently living in, you know? And it's like a lot of us have settled for the bare minimum in the past, had to do all the emotional labor. Like you've talked about, it's like we've been with that. And now it's like, this is how we feel. And Khadijah was saying like, we kind of just have become too committed to like being okay without them and really convincing ourselves we don't need them because it is like a single era, like we outside type shit because we don't need them. Like that's been like the thing. And also Khadijah talked about, you know,
Wait, can
women
I respond to the other part real quick before we get into the next part? Because I'm like, this is literally...
I know, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, this is literally what I was talking about in my like
Khadijah.
So Wet and So Dry because I'm like...
Right.
Like, it's literally me experiencing trash men, having the patriarchy in my head and being like, all right, I don't want that, so I'm just going to isolate and be alone and work on the podcast and hang out with my girlfriends because fuck men, fuck all men. But I have this nice guy over here that's like not trash. And I'm like, no, I don't want him because all of my experiences with men have been like this. And I'm so used to it and stuck in these patterns that the only way for me to raise my standards is to be alone. So, like, I do think that a good part of it, like, the patriarchy is fucking up women as well in our own psychological brains because for us to raise our standards sometimes means to just completely be alone. And I think that is healthy.
And that's okay. And that's healthy.
Yeah, it can be healthy to a point where, like, you're realizing your standards, you're being alone, you're getting to know yourself because a lot of women get to know themselves through relationships with men. You need time alone. But like what my therapist was saying is like okay, bitch, like, you're still not happy. You want companionship in some sense. You can't just sit here and be like, I'm going to be alone forever. Like, I do think that, like, raising your standards is something, but sometimes we got to look outside of our past and the men that we've experienced. Because I do think that there are good men out there. Not many, but go on.
And it has been, like, a kind of, like, domino effect. It's like the Me Too movement. Men are trash. We want to be single. Men are lonely. I mean, these things all have to do with each other, and that's what Khadijah was essentially saying throughout the whole video.
But what men would argue, and what I've heard a lot of men say in my life, and I don't think that they're wrong, is that women just go for trash men.
Right. And that is because of the patriarchy, we've been conditioned to believe that we deserve less.
Exactly.
So fuck you.
Exactly.
But yes, you're right. Congratulations, bro. Like,
yeah, it's both of us.
But that's the thing. It's like, I get it. Men are like, oh, like, women just want money. I get why they think that, because we're out here. Women in music are out here literally telling you that you're worthless unless you can get us a bag.
Right. Or we just want to fuck you and move on. But how long have men been doing that shit? How long have you guys been like, I got the pussy and I dipped?
So y'all can't take the heat back.
Right.
Y'all can't take the heat back, bro. But I think it's interesting, too, when Khadijah was talking about how it's difficult to connect with and understand men. And it's funny. And it's crazy because there's like that ongoing trope on TV of men being like, oh, women can't understand them. We're easy. We just communicate, love, respect. You're good. Y'all, though,
they can't. No, this is.
They don't even know how to break up with someone.
That's exact. Like, women, like, our biggest thing is we want to communicate. Like, we are ready to have a conversation and talk about it and break it down. Why are you feeling that way? And men are like, you're doing too much. So it's like when they say we're hard to understand, what the fuck do you mean? We are so ready to have a conversation. Versus them, they'll be like, my brain.
And then they want to do it when they're like coked up at like fucking 3 a.m. and don't make any sense and start talking about monkeys and we're all apes or whatever.
And then the next day they'll act like none of that shit fucking happened. They'll be like,
and they're like, oh, see you later. Give me head. Like whatever the fuck it is. And it's just like, yeah. And then I loved how Khadijah put, that was funny. You liked that? You liked that one? Thanks,
so
babe.
true.
That was super nice. Yeah. But Khadijah was like, this kind of like the era of everyone wanting to be exactly what you said. Everyone wants to be single. They don't want to commit to a man because they hate them.
Right.
But we still want companionship. Like your therapist said, like you can't escape that. And so thus the situationship was born because women are like, because yes, men are very like situationship, but a lot of women want it too.
I want it.
Like you said the other day, and it's because I don't want to commit all the way.
Yep.
It's like we're no better, you
know?
know?
But it's also because when I think about commitment, in most of the situations I've been in, it's relinquishing my control and my identity and my fucking purpose to a man. Like I become secondary. And not always their fault because I have been with like healthy men.
And you know that. And you need to work on that.
Yeah, society has told me how I've been brought up. It's not even them. It's me. But that's why I don't want commitment. Men, I don't know why I really do not understand why men don't want commitment because also statistics that we didn't
because they don't want to fuck one pussy.
But
they don't think it's exciting enough.
How much pussy are they getting though? Because like the other guy said, men go 12
but
months
it's the chance.
without pussy. Men go 12 months without pussy, and then simultaneously,
but they don't want one bitch. They need 3.
Like. And simultaneously, men are depressed when they're not partnered. Women are chilling. Like,
they're
okay.
good.
Childless, alone, happy. Men, childless, alone, depressed. So why do men, I don't get it. Anyway.
Right. I don't get it either. And Khadijah talked about situationships being intimate friendships. And that's literally what they are. Like, it's an intimate fucking friendship. And there's this rise of being, I've just never heard it like that, but it's like, you know, like
was just the way you said it. I loved it. Keep going.
And then so they also said there's this rise of being sex positive, and not in the way of like sex positive should be, but just kind of like you can fuck the whole fucking homeboys. Like, who gives a fuck?
Me. That was
and
me.
then it's like the result of all of that is why men are lonely. And that's essentially what Khadijah was saying. And I completely agree.
Yeah.
I think that was fucking funny as fuck. And their video was funny as fuck. So it makes sense.
No, their video was hilarious and also intelligent as fuck. I'm like, the balance they do is just perfect. Right. But I definitely was part of the whole sex positive feminism that probably backfired, like had way too much meaningless sex with people. Like, I'm a feminist. Like, I am free of the patriarchy because I fuck. And it's not true. And I think men, like, we were trying to adopt what men do. We were trying to be like, we can fuck whoever we want, and we're not sluts because we're sex positive and we want to be equal to men. And then we realized, oh shit, fucking whoever is not happy. That doesn't make me feel good. It actually makes me feel like shit 9 times out of 10 because fuck whoever you want. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like if you just go out to like fuck people because you have like a void in your life or like
it's not doing what you think it's doing.
But I think us experiencing that, like we're coming out of that and we're being like, oh, we're raising our standards. But I think men are still kind of in that because that's what's been taught to them forever. Is like you said, you need 2 bitches, you need 3 bitches, you need to fuck as many women as you can to get your fucking status up. Like,
right.
Yeah. Sorry, that was
that was great. I was just thinking about the transition. So we are gonna go into now, like sort of men and women's responses to the whole male loneliness thing and what people are thinking. And specifically, Shoe on Head's video got so much. Like, it went viral on TikTok, and people were stitching it and being like, essentially now it's like, there was a lot of women saying, like, men deserve to be lonely. This is their fault.
There's a whole movement.
I don't feel bad.
Yeah.
And so let's watch this first TikTok.
So apparently there's a male loneliness epidemic right now, and I don't want...
Well, if it isn't the consequences of their own actions. I mean, I guess just tell them to stop being a little bitch! Stop being a little bitch! Oh, are you crying like a little girl? You crying like a little girl? Hey, you don't shut your ass up!
I thought this was fucking hilarious when I first fucking watched it. I was like, yes, agreed. But honestly, like, I hold new information in me because of this episode that I like, as funny as it is and as much as I get it, like, I don't think any woman should feel bad for making a video like this. Like, let's just get it fucking period straight. Yeah. I don't think so. I do not think so because I get it. It's like smile more. That was like a joke that went on. It's like, oh, maybe they should smile more because that's what they tell us to do. And it's like, as corny as it is, it's like, yeah, bitch, like I get it. But now I just believe differently.
See, I still think it's fine. And I know it's like, because I'm arguing the opposite side of things where it's like, oh, we should feel bad for them.
But we're meshed. We're duality.
We're both. But also, like, this is so clearly satire to me because she's literally saying, like, the shit that men say to each other. And it's like, if you're a man who's taken the time to unlearn how this shit is hurting you as well, you're gonna laugh at this. And that's why intersectionality comes in, because when I see similar shit, when it's like making fun of like white people for being like whatever, I think it's fucking funny because I'm like, okay, like
accurate.
This is hilarious, and it's making fun of part of my identity, but coming from a place of like the structure's not. It's serving me from a place of privilege, but it's not serving me from a place of like growing as a human or building community or any of that. So it's like shit like this we should all be laughing at. Like I don't think men should not get upset. Yeah, because she's not making fun of like men actually being lonely. I don't think. maybe a little bit, but it's more just like, okay, well, duh, the clear problem is that men try to be too hard and don't let, like, they're acting like girls, and maybe that was never the solution to begin with. That's the core message, I think, of the video. So
right, agreed, bro. And then this next TikTok I want to play, it is a little bit lengthy, but I think it's really good. So let's just watch it together now.
Okay.
Okay, so the tables have turned. New studies have shown that men are quite literally going to be dying alone if they don't get their ish together.
A couple days ago, Psychology Today released this article about the rise of lonely single men.
I have been tagged in this article more times than I can count, so I'm just going to put an end to this and show it makes no sense what you guys are saying.
According to the articles, women's standards have increased so much as a whole that it's making it hard for men to gain access to us. Let's read further, shall we? Dating opportunities for heterosexual men are diminishing as healthy relationship standards increase. Women ages 25 to 45 say that they prefer men who are emotionally available, good communicators, and share similar values.
First and foremost, most people that made a video about this article have definitely not read the article. They just read the title, read these, and went, I get to trash men now, and made their video. And they most certainly have not looked into the studies that this article is based on. Don't worry, I did. And in the first paragraph, which is the summary, they found the most vulnerable to loneliness were younger men living in individualistic cultures, which America is. The reason that is so important is because everyone that made a video about that first article constantly say that women are raising their standards and men can't meet it. That's why men are so lonely. But studies show that younger men are the ones that go to therapy, they're better fathers, better partners, and have a better sense of masculinity, healthy masculinity. So it's awesome that you're raising your standards, but why would it ever make sense that the people that come closest to meeting those standards are the ones that fall the most short and are now the loneliest statistically?
Skills deficits. For men, this means a relationship skills gap that, if not addressed, will likely lead to fewer dating opportunities, less patience for poor communication skills, and longer periods of being single. The problem for men is that emotional connection is the lifeblood of healthy long-term love. Emotional connection requires all the skills that families are still not consistently teaching their young boys.
So what this means is the men that do have those top tier skills become even more elevated, and to get them, it becomes even more difficult. So ladies, you still got to do your part. You still got to bring your A game. You still have to be intentional about who you're speaking with and how you're choosing people. It all matters.
This as a data point, which first of all, read this. No, duh, that's what women want. But second of all, this fabulous data point is just something that he's seen from the TikTok lives he's done every week. So, real science-y.
This isn't real life. This is online. The thing that got me the most was the dating apps, right? Because people at this level can assume that they want people at this level and just swipe. And people at this level will be like, I will sleep with that individual. And now this person is mad at people at this level, this level, this level, and this level because all this person did was sleep with them and dump them. Explain to me how you figure out somebody's emotional intelligence through their picture or their small bio. Let me know.
I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, that video had a lot in it.
Yeah.
But instead of finding like a million TikToks, I felt like this video really was like the TikTok about this. It was a lot of conflicting opinions. So I don't even know where to start. Like, I'm
like, because when the guy said this isn't true because, like, the majority of the younger men are, like, learning this shit, so, like, that doesn't make sense that it would be women's higher standards, I was kind of like, I do feel that a little bit because I'm like, of the younger guys that I've talked to, and by younger I mean like a couple years, they seem to be a lot more aware of shit versus the guys that I've dated in their 30s. So I'm like, okay, yeah, that to me isn't really the women's standards thing. Like, they are more emotionally intelligent, like, whatever. But I don't know, because I'm like, the core of the article is just that, like, men are more lonely, but also vulnerable to the toxic rhetoric. I don't know.
Right. And I just think that, like, I mean, I hated myself, but I did kind of agree with that guy picking apart the article on Psychology Today, because I do think that we will kind of use anything to be like, men are trash. Mm-hmm. And that's because in a sick way, it does kind of make us feel better about ourselves. And also a lot of us are like, I just don't want to deal with it or whatever it is. So I really don't like that that's like an automatic reaction. I don't think it's healthy or it's helpful as it is fun. But I don't know. I think the women's standards thing, it plays a part. But if you get to the deep, deep meaning of why is the male loneliness epidemic happening, and we love to get to the deep meaning,
the core,
okay?
baby.
Like the real deep meaning. And I think ultimately the deep meaning is the psychological mental health stigma stuff. Like men are not really set up for success in a psychological, emotional well-being sense. They're set up for success in other areas. But
yeah, because that's what I was gonna say. I mentioned in the beginning, it's the psychological patriarchy.
Right.
And so many women, like us included, want to blame men for all the shit that we go through in society, but it's not really men. But the real enemy is the system, and the system is so much harder to hate because there's not a face to it. I mean, maybe like the president and the political system, but it's so confusing and it's so fucked up that it's like, how do you even start? Voting feels like nothing at a certain point. So yeah, it's
and just like stressful when you don't like either option ever. Like
right, and that's why it's like this psychological. For women are going at men, being like, "You're trash." Da 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 da. Men are like, "Oh my god, I'm receiving all this hate. Where am I gonna go? I'm gonna go to the right, where there's Andrew Tate and da da da." And that's pretty much what I think that's what the core of the study is that it's like they're lonely. They feel all this backlash. They only have privilege. They've never experienced anything other than just like giving jobs, like and I'm talking about white men. I think it's different for black men or like, Latino men, Asian men that came over from other countries. Like obviously that's where intersectionality comes in. But
right.
Yeah, it's this mess of like us all going at each other, but we're not really mad at each other. We're mad at the system.
Right. I know. And that's what you literally posted on our Instagram story today. But I also wanted to include like a reaction like from a men's rights activist. Like this is a white man on YouTube. And the YouTube channel is called Legion of Men. ... The video is called The Epidemic of Lonely and Sexless Men. Is accelerating, meaning like it's fucking turning the fuck up. And it's basically this one white dude reacting to a bunch of media, and it's terrifying. The video is very long. I didn't watch the whole thing, but everything coming out of his mouth was horrible. Drew Afawalo did end up on the screen. But essentially what he thinks is happening in this male loneliness epidemic is that society is trying to replace men with a weak version that never rebels and makes his woman more masculine and independent.
See, this I can't.
And he thinks the reason is because, like, the job gap is closing. Women are in more places of power, and he argues that the more women become in power, the more the weak men will arise and women will be independent. And I'm like, sounds great. Then we kill them off. So yeah, I just wanted to include that to show you guys that there are devils living on real planet Earth today. This man is one of them. Maybe we'll include a clip. Maybe we won't. It's truly terrifying what comes out of this man's mouth. But it was a very popular video. I mean, just clicking onto it now, I mean, this man like has a following. And it's terrifying. It's definitely giving Andrew Tate. So
yeah, it's so common. Like, it's literally, and it's so funny because off camera we were talking about this, like with one of the issues with my situationship, like last one, which I've said 1,000 times, but in case you're new, he ended it with me for various other reasons. But one of the reasons I should have ended it with him was just
they always do.
They always do. But
like,
I think it was because he was like he had said something one time where he was like, "Oh, you just need like a guy to like boss around. Like I'm too masculine, whatever the fuck." Like he would like make jokes, and at first I would be like, "Ha ha ha," because I am like in certain ways I am, bossy.
But not as much as, like,
right.
You know what I mean?
But, like, one of the things we would get into, because y'all, like, I have this podcast. I talk about sex, relationships, women's fucking issues. And I would talk about them to him. And he would always be like, oh, you can't hate men, da-da-da-da. But I literally don't. And that's what I don't understand with guys like this and this whole manosphere. Right. But but that's not even it. It's like this whole manosphere, even the incels that commented on our Gender Wars video, had they watched the fucking video, we're not those bitches. And I don't mean bitches in the sense where I'm
not
shitting
that there's
on them.
anything wrong with people.
There's nothing wrong with doing that. We're not shitting on their lives. We're somewhere in the middle of trying to understand this, but there's so many people on the right and on this men's rights manosphere side that's just like, no, this is the only way it can be. And I can't do it. Like, I
know. I can't do it either. It makes me really upset. So let's transition. Going from that fucking high note, let's transition into should we care? Because this is the most, like, exciting part of the episode for me. Because it's like, is it on men to fix themselves is a different than, as women, should we really care that the men are lonely? Should we really care? Like, It's a decent question, and it's upsetting because a lot of, I know on my personal Instagram, which Fiji and I post polls on our So Wet So Dry Instagram and also our personals just to get the more people. And a lot of men did respond in this for me. And the question is, as women... So why are you speaking? As women, should we really care about the male loneliness epidemic? And just some men did vote in this, which is
a lot of men did. And it's what's weird. I know you're about to say the percentages, but what's weird is that a lot of the men that voted, no, we should fix it ourselves, also voted, yes, we should. It affects us all for this one. But go ahead, read those stats.
So yeah, essentially 25% of our listeners said, I honestly couldn't care less, poor men, LOL. And then 75% said, yes, we should. It affects us all. And I think if you asked me this last week, I would have said, I don't give a fuck. Mental health, yeah, sucks. Deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, but I do think it affects us all, especially the whole childless thing. I'm trying to have babies, whether it's with a man or not. I do.
That is the thing. Because that is the least thing in my mind.
I know. Because we're different. That's what makes us great podcast hosts. Yeah. Genuinely. It's not the most important to me, but it is a concern of
like a child so many other ways. We're in 2024.
I need
like
sperm,
surrogacy.
do I not?
Yeah, but people donate that.
Right. But I'm like, if there's a male shortage because they're all dying.
Okay.
We should start freezing some now because I don't really care if they're here. But I do want to have a baby. Anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we should care. It affects us all, right? We both agree on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I took to Khadijah to really educate me why we should care. And this is when, you know, it's like the psychological patriarchy. That's like the whole core of their video. Like, this is why. And they said yes.
Wait, should we pause or no? How long?
Yeah, let's pause.
Yeah.
So Khadijah's like, yes, we should indeed care as women and people. And they were like, you know, check in with your dude friends, you know, like make sure they're good. But also it's like men do need to give us a chance and listen and expand their definition of feminism. And, you know, but also we should try to be more compassionate with the men in our life and not just jump to that men is trash thing like we talked about. And Khadijah's sort of, you know, solution to this problem was to let feminism, you know, bridge the gap between all of this. Let that be the thing that we do. And men need to have more responsibility and, you know, stop listening to these toxic males in the manosphere because there's a lot of them. And men need to expand their definition of feminism. And I completely agree with that.
Okay, so I completely agree too. But the thing that I struggle with, and I'm going to ask you this, and I don't know if you know the fucking answer, but like,
I don't.
How do we get them to stop listening to the manosphere bullshit? Like, we cannot compete with ads. We cannot compete with the fact that Andrew Tate is already like big as fuck. Like also like so many women that we love as well and podcasts and such are, you know, with the whole men is trash, whatever. Like it kind of just, it feels like, it's like, yeah, that's like, duh, that's what they should do. But like, how are we going to get there?
It's like the small thing we can do is like we talked about how it's like no one's talking to these younger men besides Andrew Tate. It's like if more people do talk to them.
So maybe they need to listen to our podcast.
Oh, they absolutely need to. Everyone should listen to our podcast. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, it's like to just include them more, not be afraid or scared of them, even though I am deeply.
I'm not scared
but
of them.
I think to just, no, I'm not either. I'm just kidding. But I think, yeah, just to include them more in conversation.
Yeah, which we're doing by having this episode.
Literally right now in present day, we are doing that. And then there was a podcast that's essentially called Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard, who had Scott Galloway on their podcast. And we're going to talk about it a little bit in the men's mental health section coming up. But something that he said on that podcast that is very simple, but it just is advocating for men does not mean you're not a feminist. And I think that seems simple, but I think that subconsciously I've thought that, no, if you advocate for men, you're definitely not on the right side. And it's not true. And I think it's like a hard and like lesson to learn, but I think for me, like it really stood out. I liked that.
Yeah, honestly, my like early feminism in middle school and high school, I feel like I very much acknowledge that because people would be like, oh, why are you a feminist? Da, da, da. And I'd be like, no, it's about equality of both sexes or genders, as we say now. It's about equality of both. Like it hurts men too. But then I kind of think I had like a go back a different way as I got older. But now I'm like, yeah, like it is a women's issue. It's a men's issue. Like feminists are the ones that are talking about patriarchy the most. So I think it's more core to patriarchy than it is to men's rights activists. I honestly think feminism has more of a core, like, genuine belief and interest in the well-being of men more than the men's rights activists do. I would go as far as to say that.
And also just in general to say like more than people think that feminism does, you know, because the men are trash and all of that. And like, even like me, like I really do jump to kind of just like kind of being like, oh, like they're just whatever, like fuck them, I don't care.
Yeah.
Which is like that first video with Shoe on Head is like, that's not the answer,
right?
You know? It's easy, but it's not the answer. It's like we should care because it does affect us all. And that's how you and I both feel.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, happy, sad, that's how we feel.
Yep.
So I do want to move into men's mental health now and those stigmas. I want to share just one TikTok that was kind of funny to me about this. So let's just watch it real quick.
So apparently there's a male loneliness epidemic right now.
Hey, fucking we ball. Thugging that shit out, hey.
This makes me so sad because this is like so literally, and we have like a listener story coming up that made me so fucking sad because I feel like it is like this is just how men be. Like I
know. It's an accurate representation. And in our outline, I wrote men are sad, this TikTok. Because it's like, this is what's like, we joke, we laugh, but it's real for people. And it's really real for people. It's about to get even realer, bitch. So basically, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention trusted source, more than 48,000 people died by suicide in 2021 in the U.S. The suicide rate among men was almost 4 times higher than the suicide rate among women. While men make up around 50% of the U.S. population, they comprise nearly 80% of suicides. And it's essentially like, why is this? It might be that depression in men goes underreported because men are less likely to reach out and get help. there's still a stigma surrounding male mental health and that men should not express their emotions. If men are less likely to seek support, there's an increased likelihood that mental health concerns can get severe and potentially lead to suicide. And the whole thing about men's, mental health, the stigma, them not wanting to get support, ties back to what we were saying at the beginning, was how boys are raised in general. They're taught not to be feminine, and feminine equals emotions for a lot of these toxic people, which is just so not true. So it makes sense. It's heartbreaking, but it makes sense.
Yeah, this is like, it just makes me so upset because I've dated a lot of men and had a lot of close men in my life where I've seen this play out in real time. Like, men having, really bad mental health or clear issues that they need to seek help for, and I've encouraged them to do so, but like there's such this like belief in their brain that like, oh, that's like, that means I'm weak, or like, oh no, I just need to like work harder and make more money and then achieve this like success that they can't even define to be happy, but they can't even get there because they're so upset like emotionally. And I do think, like, it is more because women, I don't know why, like, again, we connect more with other women. We have periods that make us literally, like, even if you don't have depression, like, you have these lows that you feel more consistently. Like, it's more, you have postpartum, which is more of a thing that we talk about. But it's just, like, I just wish, like, if anything could go away, like, I'm just like, guys, like, therapy like is so good, and I am so much more attracted to a man who's in therapy versus one who's not and thinks it's bullshit. Because if I'm thinking about like I said, I'm not really someone who wants kids particularly bad, but even if we were to have kids and our child has depression, are you gonna be like, oh no, just toughen up? Or if we get married and we have issues and I want to go to therapy, are you not? Like, that is part of the reason I'm just like, why?
And the way that men and boys are raised or whatever not to have emotions, like, I'd be lying if I said that, like, and to me, like, maybe this isn't true for you or all women, but it's like a man like crying and spilling his emotions, and maybe I'm like that's not cute, but I think that's not cute because I really, at the end of the day, I think I'm more sexually attracted to men than romantically attracted to them. So I don't really care. Yeah. I just want to be fucked good. But I think, yes, it's society, but also there's women in our society that make fun of men for having emotions. It's like, it is kind of a thing that it's like, I get why they think that.
Yeah. And I will, like, I've had men that I've been like close friends with and dated like cry to me before. And like, I will say there have been times where I've been kind of like unsympathetic to like their issues. But the biggest thing for me that would piss me off, like, normally it's like, yes, like, I want you, like, if we're dating, if I'm your friend, I want you to be able to confide in me and be emotional in the same way as my girlfriends. But the biggest thing for me that would piss me off with the men that I was dating was just like, bro, like, it's been so long that I've been like, this is the issue. You need to go to therapy. There's clearly a problem. And then all of a sudden they're crying when I leave them, or when it's like, you know what I'm saying? And then it's like, at this point, it's like, I've seen the problem for so long. I can't help you at this point. You can only help yourself, which is how I feel generally about mental health. Like, even if it was like you or someone, it's like, I can help you so far, but you got to seek the help yourself. And because
we knew that back in college.
Right. But so many men deny ever seeking the help themselves. Like, it takes them to get to this like insane breaking point. And by the time that they get there, if there's a woman around, she's going to be like, I've been telling you this.
And there's already a stigma around therapy where it's like, you have to be sad enough or went through something to go, which isn't true.
Right.
And then if you break that down even more with a man and all of that other stuff too, it's like, yeah, they're not going to go. And you bring up a great point, because the men aren't going to therapy. They are talking to their girlfriends. Women are doing all the emotional labor.
Right.
I mean, the Ashnikko song, "She's Not Your Therapist." Right. You got to take care of it, bitch. I don't know the lyrics, but it's like, that's the result of that. They don't go to therapy, so they put it on women. women want to be single more because we don't want to deal with emotional labor.
We're dealing with our own.
And that's why we're in the situation that we're in today. And we looked at an article from USA Today about how we think boys should behave. And it basically just talked about like society's like general discomfort with like boy on boy like friendships. Like you think about being a little girl, it's like you go to sleepovers, you do all this stuff like community, and it's like boys just really have sports and the Boy Scouts. Like what else you know what I mean? So, and it's basically the article's quote, from an early age, women are socialized to be more nurturing and relationship oriented than men, who are taught to perceive intimacy as weak. Says Daniel Cox, director of the Survey Center on American Life. There's all sorts of societal norms that lead men and women in very different direction when it comes to friendship, what function it serves, and what to expect from a friend. So it's like, and it also just went on to say like girls and women are more comfortable with these face-to-face relationships and all of that shit we talked about. And so I think this is a huge part of it. It's how they grow up, and it's like the reality of growing up as a boy in the US, and then on top of the mental health stigma. I mean, it's a huge problem.
And I would go as far as to say I think a lot of it also has to do with a fear of homosexuality. Because I think that a lot of men, because of this like psychological patriarchy or whatever, experience like expressing any sort of like emotional vulnerability or like intimacy or anything like that is associated with women. Like you only do that like with women because women are more emotional. If they do that with a man or a male friend, then they're like, oh, that's gay. Let me not do that. Because it's like, how many girls have we been friends with where it's like, oh, I love you. Like, oh, we call each other babe, baby girl, da-da-da all the time. Like you cuddle with your friends.
Delicious.
You give them like, exactly. You comment like thirsty gay shit on their photos. Like it's because we're showing like platonic, intimate love for each other and hyping each other up. But for men, they do it to each other. It's part of society. Patriarchal psychology. What is it again? I'm getting drunk. Psychological patriarchy. Yeah. Where they're like even saying I love you or being like, oh bro, like here's a hug is gay to them.
Right. Homophobia is huge when it comes to this boy on boy friendship shit. Like they think it's cute when little girls hold hands and run around together, but when boys do it, it's like
no.
oh no.
But it's like, but I also think it's because a lot more men are bi and queer than they'll ever let themselves be. And there's nothing fucking wrong with that. Like, it's a spectrum. And it's like, so what? You could have an intimate moment with a guy and maybe you do get turned on. Like, maybe you do hook up with a guy. That does not mean you're not still straight. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you could have an experience.
Guys don't understand the like being sexually attracted and being romantically attracted. Like I feel like you might be sexually attracted just because you don't want to fall in love with them. That's cool. Like that's the thing. I think that's how I feel about y'all. I'm still trying to figure it out. But it's just like so that whole thing is a whole other conversation. But I can't remember which tweet I pulled this from, either Khadijah's, I think it was Shoe on Head's video. But I just liked it. It was this one guy on Twitter, just an average civilian. His name is Hunter Avalone. And he said, kind of replying.
Never mind. I thought his profile picture was Jacob Elordi, but it's not. But go on.
He was kind of just replying to Shoe on Head's video, like about this whole thing. He said, men are socialized to believe strength, dominance, and stoicism.
Okay, go on. Yeah.
Are the behaviors of a real man, quote unquote. Is it any surprise that men are lonely and have less friends nowadays? You have to be vulnerable to make friends. Don't tell me there aren't systemic problems affecting men. Woo! Somebody beat his ass on fire like, but he's not wrong, right? I mean, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. And it exactly like you're socialized to think you're better than everyone else.
Right.
And then
it's
you don't have friends.
It's a competition all the time.
And then the last thing we're going to talk about before we get into the juicy listener stories that we have, that we're so grateful for, is this podcast, Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard. We talked about it a little bit, Scott Galloway. But essentially him talking about, the crisis facing boys and men was the whole episode. And he truly believes it is like a crisis because of all the suicides and everything. I mean, that's a mental health crisis for sure. And so, you know, he was kind of saying, and he said, under the age of 30, women have not only closed the wage gap, but they are making more money in certain areas of work, which let's fucking go. But he's saying, you know, this affects men.
And,
like,
and let's
like,
just say that's a big feat for women to accomplish in today's society. Like, go women.
Crazy.
Go women, but go on.
And under the age of 30, too. Because,
I mean, I make more money than most of the men I dated, so.
Bitch, you make more money than most of the people. No, I'm just kidding, but okay. BG's rich. But anyways, so Scott Galloway was just talking about big mental health crisis, suicide. There are less men going to college, getting educated. Men are ignored on dating apps. They were talking about how it's like only 4 men are really contacted out of the 50 men on the dating app, and all the women go for those whatever. So then they get depressed about that. They stay at home, isolate, play video games, and watch porn. Men end up unviable economically and emotionally by 25.
I've seen it. Yep.
Right. And so I think it's crazy. And this podcast episode is 2 hours and 45 minutes long. No, I did not watch the whole thing. No, I did not listen to the whole thing. But I think in the beginning parts when he was talking about it, I mean, it was so on point and it makes sense. And he was understanding with women being like, I get why you don't want to care about this. Like, I get it. Like, you know what I mean? But it's like, this is why you should, because it is a crisis, you know?
Yeah. Scott Galloway, like, he has some, like, videos on YouTube, too, if you don't want to watch that whole podcast. But, like, he's, like, one of the people leading this whole, like, conversation about it.
Right.
And the dating
and he's a white guy.
He's a white guy, older white guy. I think he was like a professor or like something. But yeah, when he says the dating apps, like, I'm not gonna lie to you, like, I'm like, we talk about in the commodification of dating, like, I am so guilty of commodifying the fuck out of these men and then ghosting them because.
But you're given this platform that's setting you up to do so.
But it's like it's so
like, we're not
iffy
shopping.
because, right? And also, like, I don't think women. Or people, for that matter, maybe men because they're lonely. And, like, I do think men take dating apps a lot more seriously. In my experience, I'm usually the more fucked up one. I'm the bitch. I'm ghosting. They planned a nice date. They're trying to get to know me. I can't be bothered. But
it is what it is.
But that all to say where... That's why I feel like it is a women and a men's issue because it's like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be on these dating apps. Like, maybe I'm contributing to their, like, rejection. Is that too far to take it?
Yes.
No, because, like, literally, Autumn, like, the number of men that I've, like, ghosted and, like, flirted with for a moment and then led on and just, like, disappeared. Like, what if I was their last straw? You know?
And you do that to women too, don't you?
Not as much because women don't be swiping on me on Hinge.
Okay.
Like
not even
a couple. There's this one bitch that I'll go back to. Like, I'll be like, oh, sorry, I deleted the app. And then I gave her my number and then I still, like, disappeared. But, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
I think you have a problem in general, and it just so happens that you're more attracted to men. But I get what you're saying, and it's like, maybe it's like we shouldn't be on dating apps. Like what you said. Maybe that's
because
the solution.
I think it was Khadijah's video. It was one of them that was showing.
I want your Hinge.
It was.
Give it to me.
Bitch, I have to update the pictures because now my hair's different. But it's the graph.
My hair is different.
The graph of how much women swipe on men versus how much men swipe on women is insane. It's insane. Like, what?
I've never seen
I
that.
check my Hinge daily and I have like I don't be swiping, but I'll have like 8 matches a day to just go through. And usually it's like men I don't like, you know what I'm saying? But like for men, when they get a match, some of them, it's like, that's like a big deal.
Hallelujah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Loki, it's like that
so
for me.
different.
Like,
you don't even have, do you even have dating apps now?
I don't.
Right. So what are you talking about?
I know. Sorry.
But yeah,
I'm
but
just lonely.
all that to say, like, no, it's definitely a big thing, and I feel really sad about it, and I'm just reflecting on how I'm contributing to it, because I do really think that, like, even though, again, intellectually I believe this shit is fucked up, I be treating men like fucking
disposable
objects. Because I'm like, but also the ones that have had good conversation, like the fucking, he might be listening right now. If you're listening, because he listened to a bunch of our episodes, met him on Hinge, French guy. We have not met in person, but he listened to the podcast. Nice guy. I answer him every 3 business days. I need to do better. You feel me? Like he's a nice
every what?
3 business days. Like it takes a while for me to respond. Like but he's a nice person. He's putting in effort. Like I am the problem. So I just reflect on shit like that where it's like, oh, like if my old situationship texts me who's a dickhead, I'm gonna have
You'd be like, oh,
right. And then there's a decent man who's listening to my fucking podcast, and I'm like, ew. So I know I'm not alone in that.
There's a decent man. I know, babe. I know. But yeah, I say let's get into our listener stories because they are a lot. And I was like, damn, no fucking pressure because everyone seems very interested in this episode. So hopefully you are liking it or have liked it as we begin to wrap up.
Yeah, I'm drunk at this point. So, okay. I'll read the first one.
Cool.
So this person said, high standards and they just want money and gifts more than they want a relationship. Ooh, Autumn?
And again, I completely see why he thinks that. I really do.
Yeah, it's valid.
Because it's like we take it a little bit too far.
Do we though? No, because my thing is like,
like, yes, we deserve the world and more. But I think it's like $2,000 before a first date.
Okay, but coming from you, at least had your last dude you were fucking with pay for your nails. And
I'm
the bitch that's been a sugar mama for every fucking
Okay, you're right.
So I will say,
I'm gonna go now.
I will comment on this and say that for a bitch like me, and I feel like a good majority of women, is that I don't think y'all can provide enough emotionally.
Fiji sent me money before
I sent everybody money, bitch. Yeah, sugar mama here. But if they can't provide enough emotionally, the least you can get, you go into a stripper mindset.
Some napkins. Yeah. Like for the dinner table. Like they could at least provide things we need.
But that's why we like finesse dudes out for a drink. Because I'm like, I know when you approach me, all you want is my fucking pussy. So you might as well buy me a drink. I'm not going to give you the pussy. But like, you know.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I don't think that has to do with.
But it's like we're treating men like they're strip club clients when we're not in the strip club.
But
that's how it feels.
Is a strip club. The world we live, America is a strip club.
We live in a strip club. I'm like, why am I like, yeah, bro. I mean, the finessing just gets way too real. But I see why you get that. But also you have to understand why, my friend, okay? So just think back, get a job, get some money, and you'll be good. All right. This next listener said, empathy really isn't in mind when it comes to others, especially to men and their feelings.
Okay, but I feel him, though, because, but also, coming from a Pisces.
Men's feelings.
Coming from a Pisces, an overly empathetic bitch to a fault. It has never served me. I will say literally, it has literally never served me to be empathetic to men's feelings. I'm sorry.
Is that your
because
answer?
They always do you dirty. So like, I'm not saying
But
that
your
we
type
shouldn't.
is also absolutely atrocious. So let's keep that in mind as well. This is not your everyday. I mean, honestly, it kind of is, which is sad. But yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of empathy when it comes to men. You are absolutely right. I would say there's about 0 going down right now. I think we should give a little bit more.
Yeah, we should.
I do.
I'm trying.
I personally should.
I need to give less to the atrocious men that I let put their dick inside of me. But in general, I'm going to try to give more empathy to men.
Right. Like if they're, yeah. Right. Okay.
Okay. Next one. There's an article somewhere that says women are more single because men stopped trying and now they are sad because they are lonely.
Which I think is so true. And also Khadijah talked about how it's like when men are single, they're like lonely as fuck. But it's like when women are single, like we're good.
We're free.
You know?
We have no one trying to police our outfits, where we go out.
Because we live different experiences entirely. Like from women talking about boys growing up, women growing up, it's like, who are you going to get married to?
Right.
Whose children are you going to have? And it's like, we're conditioned that relationship is like the thing that we need to do. Where it's men, it's not like that. It's money, it's work, it's success. So it's like, we think so different.
Oh my God. Me in a relationship is a whole different bitch than me outside one. So I'm like.
What do you think about me? I low-key feel like I like when I'm in a relationship, I low-key like, and I know it's different for most people, but I think I care more about my appearance when I'm in relationships than when I'm out.
I don't.
But that's rare.
I care less about my appearance.
Yeah, it's just weird. I don't know. But anyways, this next listener said, not lonely myself, but I think admitting that you're even lonely in the first place is hard for anyone, which, yeah, it is. But definitely 10 times harder for men or people that grew up as a boy because shit.
Yeah. And,
you know?
And yeah. I was going to say maybe this person is lonely. Like, that's a man thing to do, to be like, I'm not lonely myself. But
do you know who this
yes,
was?
I do.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Next one is the male loneliness epidemic is on the rise because there's low jobs, education is expensive, friends move, and men don't hang out anymore. Not going to seek mental health and alienating everyone around you is what's causing a lot of strife and male loneliness. And I agree. Like, this is what it is.
Sounds like they just watched Scott Galloway's video.
Like, you must be hip to the fucking research. But, like, I feel like all of that is why everyone's lonely. I can relate to this as a woman who lives alone and likes to isolate herself a lot of the time. But I think, like, the gender stuff and a lot of the other parts that we talked about have to do more with, like, men as well. Like, all of it is blanketly covering everybody, especially post-pandemic.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And this next listener story is huge, bro.
Oh, my God. This broke my heart.
As a man with depression, it's unfair to her being together when I'm still working on myself. And I just like to say that's hard for anyone. That's hard for women.
Yeah.
And so for a man to come to that conclusion, you're on the right track, my friend.
But I just read this differently. This made me sad. Because I have been with so many men that I feel like will feel, because they don't have enough money or because they don't like this, they don't have their place set up together, or they.
But this is different. Depression is different
but depression
than money.
Plays into the money, though.
Right.
Like,
that's not what they're
I've
saying,
been with,
but that's what they mean.
But that's what they mean. Like, I'm not, because for men, the way they're socialized is like, to be happy is success and having yourself all together. So, like, I just don't like the whole idea that so many men subscribe to, which is like, I can't be with a woman until I'm fucking successful and on top. And I think that that is such bullshit. Because women will build you.
Don't you get why they say that? Because all these women are like, you're nothing to me if you can't provide. Like, I honestly think you are not the majority, bro. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yes, you would. But that's the reason they're like this. And honestly, looking at you as a bitch that's like, has a podcast, has a job, has a condo, I can see why he would think that, but he just doesn't or them in general. I could see why they would be like, you know, but you're different.
Yeah.
So I could see why they would think it.
I do feel like I'm different compared to a lot of women in Atlanta. But I feel like when we were in Boston,
but in Iowa, those bitches are like.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like there's so many more women that, especially if you're treating her right, if you're fucking her right, all that shit. I don't think women care about the financial as much as it's being portrayed that we do. I feel like that's
in the media, but it's like
it's a cop-out.
We live in major cities for music, film. It's like Los Angeles, Atlanta, like New York. Like if you live in those places, like. That's very much the vibe. Walking down the streets in LA is fuck men.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and am I mad about it? No. after doing more thought, I'm like, it's not good. It's definitely not helping anything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Other than us getting our rage out.
Okay, so the next one, someone said, every time they said they wouldn't throw something in my face, they in fact threw it hard. And I will say, this was a man that said this, I've thrown a lot of shit hard in men's faces when I said I wouldn't. Like, I'm definitely guilty of this shit. And I think, again, I'm not making excuses for it because it's so not fucking right. And I think because of the way we're socialized, we're like, oh, men are tough. They can handle it. But like.
Yeah, that's why I pushed my ex-boyfriend. He was like, don't push me.
Right. I definitely have been like, oh, like, But I feel like sometimes, like, in relationships, men will try to treat you like a man and be like, oh, you can handle this tough shit. But, like, yeah, I don't think it's right. I've definitely done it, and I'm sorry. I apologize.
And we'll move on from there. This next listener said, it's on men themselves to fix their loneliness and also the women. Men are lonely because of the stigma around mental health and this gender and the idea of what a man is supposed to be based on social status, plus.
We're lit.
Plus half just suck.
I love the, like, half just suck. This was a man that said this as well.
Because this is, like, something I would say.
Yeah.
So, like, he gets it.
But remember what
Well, the half just
was
suck
it?
part.
We had one episode. Was it Gender Wars or was it Nonchalant Men where we were saying, like, the men that be like, oh, we all suck. Like, we find them annoying.
Right.
But, like,
probably
we
both.
probably shouldn't because, like, it is nice. When, like, you don't have to say you guys suck. Like, whatever. By the way, guys, whatever. I know I'm going off another tangent and I shouldn't because this episode's really long. But whenever me and Autumn are texting, or stop stirring that. I hear it really loud.
How could you hear that?
Really loud. Anyway, maybe you can't hear it in the recording, but whenever me and Autumn are texting and I'm like, I suck so bad I didn't do the outline yet or whatever, Autumn's like, babe, don't say that to yourself. Like, you don't suck. Like, whatever. Like, that is the dialogue that women be. And that's what I literally was thinking this the other day. I was like, what do I
I'm
need?
like, you're perfect.
I was like,
You're an
what do I
angel.
need a man for? Because every woman in my life that I'm friends with has spoken to me so much more lovingly than any man. The only difference is the men be like eating my pussy and like maybe sometimes bringing dinner home or whatever the fuck. But like every girl, every single girl that I'm friends with comments loving shit on my pictures. When I'm upset, they'll be like, baby girl, it's okay. Like, what the fuck? But anyway, just all that to say, don't tell yourself you suck. You don't suck. I'm sure.
But
you're
it's
a
so
good
true.
man.
I know. It's like, I know, because I think it's because of the stigma around men having feelings. It's like, we think that their feelings won't get hurt.
Right.
Because sometimes I genuinely think that I'm
they don't have
I'm
feelings.
a stupid woman, quote unquote. Why would you even care what I have to say? Like, I don't think I have the power to hurt your feelings because I'm below you.
Yup.
But we do hurt their feelings.
We should do another episode on that.
That's the takeaway.
At some point, like men having feelings.
We're drunk.
Because that's the nonchalant shit. But anyway, okay, next one. Men aren't trying anymore. They sit around and want women to come to them. And then when they don't, they're all, woe is me. And they say they're lonely. Okay, then try, ... comb your hair or something. Sick of men, eye roll emoji. Parentheses, and I have the best boyfriend, but I am sick of men for other women. And I feel this is like Drew off Wallow. Like, she has a good ass boyfriend that she loves dearly, but then she looks at the rest of the men and she's like, bitch, I feel sorry for you.
Right. Oh, thank you so much for bringing her into it, because literally, but I know, I agree with this so hard, because I think it's hard for Drew even. It's like, people are always like, oh, she wouldn't understand heartbreak. She has the best boyfriend, blah, blah, blah. And she's always been super open about that. But it's like, you can still see how trash it is, even if you do have one of the only men
And why
left.
does it feel like that? Like, why does it feel like we're literal cockroaches on a fucking desert ground, and
Dating
we're
is a
trying to
war
find
zone.
like the one cactus with water. Like that's what it feels like when it comes to
I
men.
know.
It's like
I know.
most of them just want to fuck. Most of them can't express themselves, won't go to therapy, hate women, listen to Andrew Tate. I don't know.
I'm so tired. And then this last listener said, oh, because some men are losers, so who the fuck is going to want to be with you? But I think some women have unrealistic expectations, which we just did an episode on literally a couple of weeks ago at this point, guys. But I think some women have unrealistic expectations because of social media, but so do men. So they end up thinking regular guys aren't enough. And I honestly, even with the last one, it's like just about everything we're talking about, I really think technology and social media is a huge demon at play here, y'all. I really fucking do, because as women, it's like we have more options, but guys are seeing so much of what they can't have every single day.
Oh yeah, and their expectations are ridiculous. Like, you want me to like stay at home with the money
and like
you
be
don't
a photoshopped woman
with the like just like this, make you dinner. Yes, babe, fuck me the same way all day, every day. Like, no. Like, men have unrealistic expectations of women as well. So I'm glad that he at least said that. But yeah, I do think it's social media. Listen to the unrealistic expectations episode for sure. But that is the end of our listener stories, and we're gonna wrap it up, guys. If you've made it this far, we love you.
I will suck your dick immediately.
I will masturbate thinking about you guys later.
No, I will plan a vacation. No, I'm sorry. But yeah, let's wrap it up. I'm gonna start. I think Fiji always is so good at this part, but I'm gonna start.
What about our growth? Go ahead.
I'm gonna say that I'm so wet that even though I can't strongly and confidently and securely say the statement, I love men, I'm at least at a point where it's like, I like them, I'm fine with them, you know, because it really used to be like, I straight up didn't care if y'all died. I didn't care. And was that like kind of like privileged? Like, I don't know. But I'm definitely at a better point now. I'm wet about the knowledge that I gained. And it's really cool because I probably wouldn't have ever done this knowledge if we didn't have a podcast. So I am grateful to that as well. I love like learning with y'all like through these episodes. I think it's really cool. And yeah, I'm wet about more stuff, but why don't you start talking?
I'm wet that you have seen the light. Honestly, I'm wet that I
low-key was like kind of mad at you a little bit.
No, definitely. And if you guys
and I
listen
didn't
to
say
past
anything.
episodes,
I'm like,
we very much were on the, and I felt like, you know, am I being a pick-me?
I didn't think you were, but I was just like, oh, like, you're so good, aren't you?
Yeah, I get it. But also, like, I'm a geek and I listen to podcasts and watch YouTube videos way too fucking much.
And you've been through more shit with men than me, so to speak, close and personally every day consistently.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how can I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like,
I just intellectualize everything to a fault. But yeah, but I am wet about you like learning about it. And I really hope I'm like wet about talking about this because I do geek out on this shit. And I do think it's so important. I'm also wet about our male listenership going up just because I'm inspired by change. And I always want to talk to women and queer people first because that's the community that we want to build. But I also really do believe that change is not going to happen unless we involve men in the conversation. And so like, I'm wet about that. I'm also wet that my perspective has changed. Honestly, like even though I've like researched this shit for like a year or whatever and like kind of knew about it, like redoing this episode and talking about it, it had me reflect on all the times that men have responded to things about the podcast and were like, oh, you should have men on, or oh, da-da-da-da. And every single time I would be so irritated. I'm like, can women have anything? Can women have a space, da-da-da? But now I'm kind of like, wait, like, bitch, chill out. Like, it's actually really cool that men are interested in our content versus Andrew Tate when that's what's being pushed down their throat so much. So like that makes me like, I'm happy that like, okay, next time a guy replies to my shit or like whatever, I'm going to be like, okay, like this is what I'm aiming for, and this is not something I should be annoyed about, you know?
Right. And we do want to have men on the podcast, like a lot.
Yes.
Like we really do. And I think in the beginning, I kind of wanted men on the podcast to be controversial and like be like, oh, we're going to fight. But now it's more so like, you know, to actually make change, like what you're talking about. But yeah, I'm just wet overall. I think that this episode is like, it's so fucking important to really understand this, like as a whole, and to understand that like what Scott Galloway said, you can be a feminist, an intersectional feminist, and like advocate for men sometimes, and that's not a bad thing.
Right.
That doesn't, you know, mean anything. It doesn't mean you're letting other women down or yourself down or anything. So I think that's important. But for dry, I mean, I'm definitely dry about the mental health stuff. Like, I seriously relate so hard to isolating and playing video games, like literally. But I also am Pornhub, bitch. I have to take a break sometimes from porn, like, because the stuff I watch is fucking like eye clenching. Like, it's horrible. So I really do get it, but I also do have privilege in that I'm in therapy and I have like women friends I can talk to, like what I said. So I do get it. And I think that shit's so real. I'm dry about like how we raise boys in the society, how I fear them. I'm dry about all of that. And like, cause it's like growing up as a girl on the playground, like, and thinking about those boys, like, wasn't that terrifying? Like, they were so scary and mean.
See, I never felt that way. And, like, I feel like that's, like, probably to a fault. Like, people say all the time when I walk home alone, like, at night, I shouldn't. Like, I think it's bad how much I don't fear men sometimes. But I've also been through a lot of shit where I'm like, try to hurt me as much as men have hurt me in the past, bitch. Like, you know, whatever. But I definitely feel you, because I think most women feel like that quite.
Because even before
bit.
your abusive relationship, you always walked home in the fucking dark.
I've always been like, try me, bitch, because I think I could flirt my way out of it or run or something. I don't know.
And you will.
And I will. But I'm dry, obviously, like Autumn said, like about like the mental health crisis, the suicides, like all of that shit is so real. And it's really sad. I'm dry about just men not talking about this stuff, and like how many of them are vulnerable to going to the right in this men's rights manosphere bullshit that I think is giving them power in the moment, but really deteriorating their mind and their capability of having any sort of relationships with women. I'm also dry about, yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, I can just see it in, like, every relationship I've ever had with a man. Like, I just see it so clearly.
Yeah.
And I'm dry about them not seeing it. And I just really want them to.
Yeah. And I think it's just, like, what really hit me, too, is, like, perspective is just huge. Like, we really grow up so differently, like, men and women. And then you bring race into that. And then you bring sexuality into that. Then you bring the country into that. I mean, it's really just insane. So it's, like, we should all be more compassionate.
Right.
We really fucking should. Because, like, I grew up in, like, an interracial household with lesbians. Like, you know, I'm gonna know more than the fucking white kid next door that, you know, it's like, I can't blame him for that. So, yeah, we all have a lot to work on. I would say I'm confused. Like you asked me earlier, it's like, what do we really do about this? But I do think, like, including men in the conversation and, like, doing episodes like this and talking about, you know, quote unquote, because even saying men's issues feels wrong.
Yeah.
Like, that is not a thing. But it's like, if you say, you know, black and brown men's issues, that I'm all for. But it's like, you just say men's issues, it doesn't sound right. But it shouldn't be like that. That's not, feminism is not saying that, you know, that's not what it is. So I don't know. I guess I'm just confused. I definitely have more growing to do in my, like, internalizing misogyny journey and, like, the psychological patriarchy and, like, being more compassionate to men. Like, I have stuff to figure out, but I think, like, being self-aware and having the conversations, like, in a safe space like this podcast is, like, a great way to, like, figure out where you're at and then, like, what you need to do and go from there.
Yeah. Before I get into what I'm confused about real quick, I just want to say one other thing that I'm dry about. I'm really, really dry about the poll where it was like, is this on men to fix themselves? and most of the men voting that yes, it is, because I really don't think that it is. Like you just said, it's an issue for all of us.
But I think that's what they would think we would say, and they were trying to appeal and be like, I'm with you.
And that's also what like Andrew Tate would say. It would be like, oh, just make more money, work harder, fix it yourself. But I'm dry about the fact that so many men think that they are so alone in this and that no one cares, because like women, I think, do. And even the women that are like, oh, you got to spend $2,000. Like, I think the majority of women like have hearts and have souls and can be compassionate. So like, I'm really dry about that.
And people care about people. It's like gender is a construct at the end of the day, and we never talk about it like it is. I mean, it's interesting to kind of talk about it like it isn't sometimes because of the dynamics, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like, it's not even a thing. Not all women get periods. Not all men, like some, like there's he, him lesbians. Like, I don't know. Like shit is very, yeah.
And there was a whole video in one of them, the YouTube videos, where it was a trans man who had transitioned from woman to man, was talking about how fucking lonely it was to be a man when they were conditioned and socialized their whole life as a woman, like whatever. But I really recommend like you guys watch all the YouTube videos we talked about and do all of the research, but
they'll all be linked below.
Yeah, I'm confused about, I guess, how to move forward, because like I feel like that's why I'm glad we're on the same page, because I think on the podcast sometimes I'm like, I feel like a pick me sometimes when I'm like, oh, we have to consider how they feel, and like I've done that to a fault when I was in my abusive relationship, and I think it was counterproductive because I would intellectualize so many things and not like when I shouldn't. So I'm still kind of confused about where the line is, especially when it comes to romantic and intimate relationships, when I should be empathetic of men's struggles and when I should be like, okay, like it is on you to seek therapy. And for any men that are listening, it's like, look, like women, we want to help you. Like we want to be partners and we want to be there for you. But like the biggest thing is like, you guys need to realize that you also need to help yourselves. And it's not just going to the gym and getting money. It is the actual emotional labor and work that you need to do to be there. So like
journaling, therapy,
all of that,
psychiatry for a lot of
and
you,
realizing that and realizing that those aren't feminine qualities. So like I'm confused about, and I think we're doing it in this podcast, like even talking about it, like welcoming men to the conversation, but I'm confused about like how to make it better, because I just want to make it better, and I'm confused about how to show up in my romantic and intimate relationships in that balance. And also why I'm drawn to the bad men when there's good men over here. That's a whole other thing.
That's an episode is why is my type a horrible.
But I'm one of those,
because I relate to it a little bit too.
But that contributes to why these men are like, oh, I'm not going to listen to that shit because I could do all this work. And she's not going to want me.
She still want me more than the other guy.
Right. So
because they're not as dumb as we think.
I mean, yeah.
But yeah, this episode was extremely long. So if you listen to the whole thing, truly thank you so much. We want to do more episodes like this in the future, kind of, talking about these quote unquote men's issues, or how we can kind of bridge the gap between everything, like what's going on. So it's a huge part of our society, and that is what So Wet, So Dry is all about. Mm-hmm. So thank you so much for listening. Please stop whatever you're doing right now, and wherever you're listening, subscribe, follow, like, comment, share with a friend, someone you think that might like our podcast. We are on all social media platforms. We are active on TikTok, Instagram. We post YouTube shorts. All of our content and all of our accounts, you can find us at So Wet, So Dry. The O's are zeros.
Yes, and we also have listener support on Spotify. It's 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99 a month. Again, me and Autumn are not making any money from doing this right now. At this point, it is just public service. So if you feel so kind, especially you lovely men, If you
Yeah,
wanna,
daddy.
you could subscribe to a bitch's OnlyFans. Still do that, but you should also subscribe to us because we have brains.
And we're gonna make OnlyFans in like 2028.
Yeah,
so
that's
it's
all
gonna be great.
Autumn. That is not me. I'm out the sex work game. Anyway, also rate us 5 stars on Spotify or any other platform. If it's 4 or below, maybe keep it to yourself. Woo. But we love you so much, and we can't wait to see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
There's a lot of people who have never dated anyone that's gone to jail, never had a prison lover, whatever the fuck, but then someone's mugshot will go viral and they'll be like, oh my God, Prison Bae, I want them. I'm like obsessed with them. There was one guy that got like a whole modeling career and like all this stuff off of being in prison. Like people like, you know, they go viral. There's whole Twitter pages, there's whole TikToks, all of that. So people definitely fetishize it.